And welcome back to Hot and Cold Podcast. Today is Tuesday, March 22nd, and we are entering the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. So you know what that means. That means we have Sweet 16 basketball incoming. So we went through round one and round two, and I think it would be a little bit much to kind of recap every game that happened in the second round. I mean, if you want, we can talk on it as we go, but I thought of something. This may be a short episode. It may not. It depends on how long we stretch these out. But I think it would be a good idea if me and Connor go through every Sweet 16 team, give you a reason why they could win the tournament, give you a reason why they won't. And again, look, only one of these teams are going to do it. So Connor is going to be right in most of this because he's the resident pessimist of the podcast. So I gave him the reins of taking up the negatives of each team. So
why did you do that? You had the opportunity to put yourself in a position to be right, except for one team, and now you're going to be wrong.
Because I'm generous. I'm generous, yeah. and that's what I do. You see, like I'm a very generous person. I know you have taken up the role of pessimism. I know there's many people that reply to our tweets. Your tweets and say
they get angry. Like, they get super angry.
I saw one. You said something I didn't even think was that bad, but you were like, imagine if this team didn't win in the first four, how much different we'd think. And somebody said, dude, shut up. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is.
He was like, hilarious. Smile a little bit. And I was like, first off, that wasn't even a negative tweet. That was like saying good thing they won. Like the national narrative about Indiana would have been awful if they had gotten beat like they did against St. Mary's in the play-in. It would have totally taken everything that happened in the Big Ten tournament away. The negativity around the program going into the offseason would have been really, really bad. And I don't know. Apparently that was out of bounds. I shouldn't have said that.
He was on you for that. He said, dude.
Smile a little bit. I was like, what? I'm laughing right now at what you just tweeted.
It is funny because you can kind of see. I don't think it's ever just one tweet that makes that response happen. Yeah. I think it's a buildup of a bunch of negative tweets from a negative game, from a very bad game where you lost by 30 plus. Or I don't know how much was it, 29?
29, thank you.
Okay, sorry.
We don't lose by 30 in the tournament. 29.
So anyways, so it was I think that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, and it was very entertaining.
It was funny because Bryson texted me, he goes, "Who's this sunshine pumper tweeting at us?" And everybody's tweeting at us, and I was like, "Yeah, my bad. I guess I'm supposed to be positive in a 30-point rout in the tournament. Like I'm just supposed to be okay with that and like not be angry about it in like any way. But it's whatever."
And by the way, this was supposed to be my episode. I'm going to be. This is the reason I didn't use this as a part of content, but I will bring it up before we get into these 16 teams. But I texted Bryson beginning of the day, very early, and I said, if the Big Ten goes over, I will be on Sunday. If they go over, they had 5 games. I will be insufferable. I will be somebody that nobody wants to talk to. And I texted Bryson that. I didn't text you because you would have had the ability to be ready for it, and I wanted it to come as a pseudo surprise. Damn it, Bryson. Anyways, so
come on, how is he not going to tell me about that?
Yeah, but I was getting toasted on Twitter, on the Twitter sphere for Michigan beating Tennessee. Martha jumped in on the fun. He created a pun that I unfortunately laughed at. I was very mad that it was so clever. We're gonna have to have him on. We're gonna have to have him on to talk about that.
I read it and didn't even realize at first that it was your last name. Like I just read gut wrenching. Like I just read it like it was normal spelling, and I had to read it again. I was like, oh, really good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, shout out Martha. It was free publicity for me. But anyway, so yeah, no, we have to have him on. We have to talk about that. I think he thinks I hate him, which is very funny. I do not.
You guys have Martha. A weird, like a like a back and forth going on. Like even
I think
in the
he hates
spaces,
me. I think he hates
you guys
me.
are like throwing shots at each other, like SEC, Big Ten, and I think it's really, really funny actually.
No, but yeah, I look, I'm not going to say I was right. I'm not going to say I told you so. That I did say that the Big Ten would filter from 9 to 2 right after the bracket was released. I'm not going to say that I predicted that for the Sweet 16, but I did. And it's just because the SEC played so poorly that I have no room to talk. So I'm just going to, I know when to not be a child, and I'm going to stay out of this one.
Theoretically, though.
Sure.
Theoretically, doing some quick math, 9 out of the 68 teams in the tournament is roughly 13% of the teams. So theoretically speaking, each round, you would say that if the Big Ten is performing at the level that they should continue to have 13% of the teams left. Obviously, it gets a little bit different once there's like 4 teams left. You can have 13% of 4. So again, they have 2 of the 16 now. Honestly, again, not sure how you can hold it. Chucky Hepburn got hurt. I mean, that killed them.
Javon Quinterly got hurt against Notre Dame.
Yes.
Notre Dame. So that invalidates that argument.
Again, they weren't in that game, really. Alabama was kind of getting beat from the jump. Anyway, 2 out of 16, 12.5%. So again, they're on track having I mean, it's fine.
But in that argument, you were weighting every single team the exact same, including every single 16 seed. You're not weighting that the Big Ten should have, as the tournament goes on, the better teams rise to the top.
We didn't have, I mean, it's fair, I guess. We didn't have a 1 seed though, so it's like whatever. Sure. But there's just every team is. I mean, look, hey, 15 seed apparently is just as equal to a 2. So. I mean, I guess that's what we should do, right?
Saw that one coming. Hand up. Saw that one coming. Hand up. Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah.
Look, we've been going back and forth about this, and
you were mad on Sunday. You were pissed
because I keep seeing it. Not and you
went out. You went out in front of it too. I was trying to be an adult, trying to stay out of it. Sent out a few tweets that Martha had to. Sorry, hand up, but. Well, I had to in that situation, but I wasn't being as insufferable as I could have been. And you were sending me stats. You were sending me everything you were sending me the ranked teams from each conference since 2010. And I was like,
it was a build-up.
Yeah, it was a build-up. It was a powder keg. It was a guy that replied to you on Twitter. Yeah, that's what happened.
It's a lot of people that have been saying it. And one, again, I think I told you this and you kind of disagreed, which is fair. I just don't understand. Like the NCAA tournament is the most unpredictable sporting event, like championship the way to determine a champion, like ever. Like rarely. I mean, Kentucky, obviously, when they won with Anthony Davis, they were the clear-cut best team. A team like Baylor last year, everybody had them in the championship, but then it was kind of people couldn't decide who was better.
I told Lenardi Baylor was better than Gonzaga.
Yes, you were there. He wasn't.
He was not there.
No. So I think it's just very dumb to judge a conference based off these tournament results when things are so unpredictable. And you think it's one game. Like it's the only baseball is best of 5, best of 7, NBA best of 7. NFL is a little bit different, but there's not as many teams. It's just you don't have to win as many games in the NFL, obviously, to get there.
Not nearly as random as basketball as well. Yeah,
I get it. Obviously, the Big Ten hasn't performed well. They've talked about it. The coaches have talked about it. But I don't know. It's just weird. It's this weird. Automatically, a conference sucks because of how they perform in the tournament. The season doesn't matter.
I'm not saying they suck.
No, you haven't.
I'm saying they are over. I think they are overvalued, in my opinion.
Yes. And again, this plays into my point because with how the metrics look, obviously Rutgers was lower in the metrics than a lot of the other teams, but they have the most teams at the top of those metrics. That's why they get the nod in the tournament. That's why teams in the SEC, I mean, the SEC, again, as much as people wanted to pump them up, it ended up being a pretty top heavy conference like it had been in the past when it was like just Kentucky and maybe one or two other teams. That's basically what it was this year. I mean, LSU and Alabama, I think
the conference was definitely overvalued.
I think it took a step back.
Yeah, it took a step back, but at preseason it's hard to fight it, and it's hard to say like everybody fell for it. So I'm not saying like some people were like, the rosters were there. The rosters were good. There was fantastic transfer talent. It was fantastic recruiting talent. Like Alabama's roster, you look at that on paper and you're like, okay, this team is awesome. LSU's the same way. Arkansas is definitely the same way. And Auburn obviously is going to have the number 1 draft pick. So like it's hard to really, and teams underperformed. Florida underperformed. Mississippi State underperformed. Vandy even underperformed, but maybe. But they have one of the best guards in college basketball, and that's why. And they definitely did not play as well as they should have.
Well, the Big Ten was the opposite. Everybody, I mean, even me, I was like, the Big Ten's going to suck this year. That's why I thought Indiana had a really good opportunity to, work their way into the top 4 or 5. And then Kofi comes back. Johnny Davis emerges out of nowhere. Keegan Murray becomes both of those guys are National Player of the Year candidates. That was a surprise. Like, again, even if you would have asked me 7 months ago, who's the better conference, the SEC or the Big Ten, I would have said the SEC, just because I didn't expect Wisconsin to be good. We had them like 10th in our preseason ranking or whatever. And there was just a bunch of Iowa. I did not think was going to be good. If you would have told me they were going to win the Big Ten tournament, I would have said you were crazy, because I didn't think they had anybody. But I don't know. It's an interesting time. I think, again,
is it fair to say though? All right, I'm sorry for stepping on your toes. Is it fair to say, because at the beginning of the season, we said Michigan and Purdue are the 2 best teams in this conference, and they're the last team standing. So is it fair to say that those teams in conference play, Iowa, they were scrounging for a quad 1 win until, late in the season. Illinois, they kind of, they made a run at the end. They fell out of the top 25 early in the year. People forget, but they kind of scrounged together, made a run. Those teams that kind of is it fair to say that they were frauds? Is kind of a big word, but we knew which teams were the best, and they became the cream of the crop in the NCAA tournament when it mattered.
Yes. Like, again, I think I can't believe I fell for the Iowa fluke. You bring up like the quad 1, like Fran, he can't get out of his own way. I fell for it. Illinois, again, like I said, they were better than last year. I didn't necessarily think they were going to make like a huge run to the Final Four, because I had them losing last year in the round of 32. So again, I had them beating Houston, but I had them losing the next game. Again, Brad Underwood can't get out of his own way either. Do you like the Tom Crean comparison? I tweeted that.
No, I don't really like that as much.
You don't like that?
No, I don't think so, because
he's had just as much talent as Tom did.
Yeah, but I'm just, Tom Crean has made a Sweet 16.
So you think Tom Crean is better?
No, I'm just playing around. No, I mean, I get where you're coming from. I'm not in love with comparing coaches, really. I think everybody's kind of their own thing. I don't really know who I would describe Brad Underwood as. I mean, there's a ton of coaches, really.
He's underperforming, though.
Yeah, definitely underperforming, 100%. Like, he should have probably. I'm surprised they didn't win the championship last year. Like, with that good of a roster, how good they were. Like, they could have beaten a Baylor in the Final Four. They could have beaten a Gonzaga, and they flamed. They flamed out against Loyola Chicago. So,
I think the thing that stuck out to me was just, Illinois was so bad, and then he came in, kind of resurrected them, is getting the All-American talents, and then now it's just they can't even get past the round of 30, which is really bad, by the way.
Yeah.
Like,
no, that's
really bad.
That's one of the worst rounds to not be able to get out of. Round of 64 is the worst. But the round of 32, you can't get out of that where you're almost always going to be the favorite. Like,
yeah.
Whew. Like I get Houston was a favorite per se by Vegas, but
I
everybody
thought Illinois was going to run away with it. Like,
shout out Calvin Sampson, by the way. He's really, really got this team rolling, and we'll get to them. But one more thing before we get to these teams. I have developed a take, and this happens every year. I can give you the teams off the top of my head from the last 2 years. But the Rothstein picks, the Goodman picks, the Seth Davis picks, they're always the same. When Selection Sunday, when it's coming up, maybe early March, late February, here's what they do. It's like they have an Illuminati meeting, like the secret meeting nobody knows about, and they all pick one team that is the dark horse. Not really the dark horse because they're 1 or 2 seed, but they're like, okay, this is my favorite to win the bracket, and this is a team that you should watch out for. This is the most talented. This year, sadly, it was Kentucky. They lost. Remember who it was last year? It was Illinois.
Yes.
It was Illinois. Fade those teams. Hopefully it's not Kentucky next year, but fade those teams. I wish I had more. I just thought of the take. I wish I had more evidence on it. And I get it. Like that's a big thing to say, whatever, 1 of 64. But there is something like they always have that one team that that everybody in the media falls in love with. I fell in love with Kentucky. Sorry. Like that's my team. I'm just as guilty as like kind of following in their lead because I think I had Illinois in the Final Four last year. But yeah, I just wanted to say that it doesn't really mean anything.
It's conveniently been teams the past 2 years that I, one, didn't have faith in, and 2, I hate and dislike. So it worked out that I just had them losing. Bryson convinced me on Illinois losing last year. I wasn't so sure that he convinced me on Loyola, but this year I was just like, I don't like Kentucky. I'm not going to. That was, again, it was a win-win. Purdue loses, Kentucky loses. Somebody's got to lose before they get to the Elite Eight. So it was like, whatever. I don't care.
That's true. Okay, let's get into this. So the pros and cons of each Sweet 16 team and why they can win a tournament and why they won't. Obviously, odds are in your favor, Connor. Let's do this. I want to start with Gonzaga in the West region, number 1 seed, number 1 overall seed. We got the Gonzaga Bulldogs. The reason that they will win a title this year, big man play. Drew Timme showed in the Memphis game he was clamped up in the first half. He wasn't able to do anything, but then he just went nuclear. The post hooks, finding guys in the paint. Like, he is incredible. He's an incredible college player. He is very smooth, fluid in his game, very old school. That's huge for Gonzaga. It's going to be really tough to stop no matter how good your front court is. And then you got Chet Holmgren kind of patrolling the paint off the ball. I don't love him on the ball, but he off the ball, kind of leaving his matchup and blocking shots. He's one of the best in the country, if not the best in the country at doing that.
I think the reason that I am hesitant on it, like I will admit I had them winning. I do have them winning, like my main bracket. But Memphis kind of exploited something that I think that teams are definitely going to take a note of. And you just have to be physical with Gonzaga. You have to really out-tough them, be physical with their guards. Again, I think guard play is very inconsistent for them. Nebhard played really well against Memphis. Didn't really do much against Georgia State. Again, Chet played really well. It's kind of Drew Timme and then a question mark after that. It's been kind of inconsistent for most of the year on who is going to be that number 2. I think that matters. If Drew Timme gets into foul trouble, who's the go-to guy? Is it Chet? Is it Nebhard? Is it Bolton? I don't even know if they know that.
Yeah.
And I think that matters. Again, this matchup against Arkansas, not necessarily worried about it, but like going forward in the tournament, if they have to run to a Texas Tech, that's That's going to be a really tough matchup as far as a physicality standpoint for them. And I don't have a lot of confidence in the depth of this team either. I mean, they basically play 5 guys the majority of the game. So I think that also hurts them as well. So you go, I give you 2 to 3 reasons on why I don't like. Again, Drew Timme is the best player in the tournament.
Yeah.
Who is it after that? Who is their number 2? I don't think they have one. And I think that could lead to their ultimate downfall.
All right. Yeah. Moving on is their matchup in the Sweet 16. I have Arkansas, and here's the reason. I know what everybody's going to say. Oh, they got a March player in JD Note, a guy that can get hot. That's not why I'm picking them. Elite perimeter defense. I think that's something that Arkansas is very good at, and I think that's something they've gotten better at throughout the year. They have 3 guys on the perimeter that are averaging a steal or more, which is huge. One guy averaging like 2.1, I think, in JD Note. And they held New Mexico State to 48 points and 19 turnovers. JD Note having 8 of those steals. And look, this Arkansas team, sometimes they struggle offensively. Sometimes they go cold. They have cold stretches. But their perimeter defense is awesome. Like, they have guys that are not afraid to get physical on the perimeter. Like you said, with the Gonzaga thing, they're very similar to Memphis in that way. I think that's something that Arkansas is really good with, and they can match up well against elite guards if they have to going forward. So, yeah, that's why I like Arkansas, and that's why I think they have a chance to win the whole thing.
Yeah, you kind of led into what I'm going to counter with. I think 3-point shooting is the biggest concern for this team. I know they're a very tough, physical, good defensive team, very fundamental, like take a lot of charges, which you don't like, which I think is funny. Their 3-point shooting is abysmal. They're shooting 31% as a team for the year. In their most recent game, they shot 3 of 16. And against Vermont, I think they were probably 33%. So that's very, very concerning. At some point, you have to score to win. And they have had stretches in their first 2 tournament games where they just can't score. And that's kind of how New Mexico State kind of got back into it. And the offensive lulls throughout the game, that's not good. And you really can't have that if you're going to win the whole thing. So 3-point shooting is probably the thing that would stick out to me the most as to why they probably will not win it all.
Yep. Moving on to the next matchup in Texas Tech. Look, I think this is obvious. Defense, and a little bit more defense. It doesn't really matter because, look, Texas Tech, they don't really have a big guy inside that's like massive, like to their matchup coming up. And Duke, Mark Williams, 7-footer, they don't really have that. But I think they can play up to any big, better than anybody in the country. With the defensive sets they run, the scrambling they do, they have the ability to lock down anybody in the paint, anybody on the perimeter, whatever. Mark Adams has done a fantastic job with his squad, kind of taking over some of Chris Beard's sets a little bit. And look, this Texas Tech team, they showed in the Notre Dame game, they showed a lot of grit. They have the ability to play physical without fouling, which is huge. That's huge. And I don't know if the refs, if they kind of have shown that to the refs, so the refs don't really call as many fouls. Either way, they don't get called for a lot of them. They kind of body you on your way to the paint, and they don't call a lot of fouls against this team. And I think that is why they really do have a chance against any team in the country, no matter how much size they're giving up inside, like to a Duke, like to a Gonzaga. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Texas Tech is a hard team to find a flaw. I honestly, like, they're good defensively and they're good enough offensively. I think one thing is, Bryson Williams has kind of been their de facto number 1 option when they've needed one. But again, at some point in the season, Terrence Shannon was that number 1 guy, and then he really didn't play well towards the end of the year, and he kind of fell off. He had some injury issues as well throughout the year. I think he's kind of the guy that I look at. I'm a little worried about as far as his production. In their first matchup, I think he had 20, but a lot of it was free throws. And then last game against Notre Dame, he didn't really play well. So I think he's probably the biggest concern for me. But again, that's kind of been their mantra this whole year, is kind of just a collective. We're not really going to focus on one guy. I think that's good, but who takes that last shot when everybody else is struggling? Who is going to step up? I don't know. They haven't really struggled all year. They haven't really had to deal with this. That one Kansas game when they went to overtime, it was Bryson Williams. He was draining threes, but it was not good offense. Late in the game, their execution was not good. So I think there's a couple things that you could look at with that team. Not a clear number one option, execution late, not strong guard play, really. I think those are two things that you could really look at.
Sure. Yeah, let's move on to their matchup in Duke. You said Drew Timme is the best player in the tournament. Paulo Banchero may be a strong number 2. He's definitely the best pro prospect in this tournament. And I think he's kind of getting into the rhythm of the NCAA tournament. He drained 2 threes in both of the games that they've played. If he can develop that, this team is even scarier than they were before. They weathered the storm with AJ Griffin getting hurt. He had 19 and 7 against MSU. I believe that Duke has, like you said with Texas, they have that number one option, and that is huge in the tournament. And as much as we're not rooting for Duke, he could be the key to a national championship this season.
Yeah. Again, with Duke, kind of like Texas Tech, throughout the year, it was kind of assumed that Paulo would be that number one guy. And I wouldn't say it's been like that the entire season.
Not necessarily.
He struggled at times. AJ Griffin had big games. Wendell Moore's kind of been that consistent guy in double figures. Mark Williams is going to give you around 15 and like 6 or 7, something like that.
Yeah.
I think Jeremy Roach is kind of the X factor for them. Him and Keels have kind of struggled. I mean, Keels went from starting most of the year. Now he's coming off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those two guys is probably their weak spots. I trust everybody else for the most part. I think, their guard play and even their depth, they play 6 guys.
Yeah.
Which isn't necessarily a huge deal once you're into the tournament, because you're going to play your best players for the majority of the game. But Paulo played 38 minutes, AJ Griffin 37, Wendell Moore 36 in their game against Michigan State. So again, they're going to have to play 2 games in the next 4 days, or 3 days, I guess. And can those guys play that many minutes and still figure out a way to win? I'm not sure, but I think the guard play is a serious question mark for them going forward.
So let's move to their bitter rivals in North Carolina, a team that beat them at Cameron Indoor to finish off the season in hilarious fashion. Like the UNC Tar Heels coming off a big win against Baylor. They almost blew it. They didn't. I think the thing with UNC is, look, they're scoring a ton of points. Hubert Davis has finally tapped into the potential of this team. Look, when you look at this roster on paper, I was talking about Alabama earlier. I mean, you got guys like Caleb Love, RJ Davis, Brady Manick, Armando Bacot, Leaky Black. Those are big names. Like, those are big names in college basketball. And the fact that they scrounged together an 8 seed and a bad ACC is something to think about. Hubert Davis, obviously, first year of coaching, there's going to be some wolves. He figured it out. Like, he has this team playing the best that they have played all season at the exact right time. And look, maybe the unsung hero of this team, definitely not the best, maybe third best on this team is Brady Manick. Look, it is obvious how crucial he is to the success of this team. He scored 28 against Baylor. Then he went out with a BS, I guess, questionable ejection, and Baylor went on the run. He's obviously extremely important to this team. He was extremely important to the Oklahoma team last year, and them scoring a ton of points is the reason I'm going with, and not a lot of teams can keep up with that production. Marquette certainly couldn't.
Oh my God. The big fear for North Carolina for me is, and it's more about the matchup, I guess. It's not necessarily the matchup against UCLA. It's the potential matchup against Purdue.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a backup for Armando Bacot.
Yeah.
Like they don't have a guy to come off the bench. And I would say it's not very far-fetched for him to get in foul trouble against Purdue, guarding Edey and Travion Williams. And if he gets in foul trouble, they are screwed. Like they don't have an answer down low for either of those guys in the Elite Eight matchup that could potentially happen. So that I could see them beating UCLA again if Bacot even gets into foul trouble, because UCLA doesn't have a dominant big. Like Cody Riley and Miles Johnson aren't going to score that many points against you.
Mm-hmm.
But against Purdue, I mean, that's their bread and butter. I mean, they're going to go to those 7-footers that they have over and over again, and you're just not going to win that game if your guy, if Bacot's in foul trouble. So not having a backup for Bacot is, I think, going to cost them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's move on to their matchup that you just mentioned in Sweet 16 in UCLA. The reason I think UCLA can win this tournament, they gave up less than 60 in both of their previous games against Akron and St. Mary's. And look, St. Mary's, they're not a good offensive team, really, but they can fill it up. And you saw that firsthand, unfortunately. Like they can really, really fill it up if they're shooting well. UCLA was able to minimize that. Their defense under Mick Cronin, we all know Mick Cronin's a great defensive coach. And I think that's huge for UCLA. Here's the reason, though. If one of their elite offensive players, not even all of them, not even all three of Tiger Campbell, Jaime Jaquez, and John Juzang can go off, not even all three. If one of them can go off and show why they're that elite offensive player, they could be huge. Like Johnny Juzang's stretch last year is obviously what comes to mind, but Jaime Jaquez has the ability to do that. Tiger Campbell also has the ability to do that. So they can beat anyone if they can get production at elite level production out of at least one of those guys, because that defense to fall back on.
Yeah, you mentioned him. Jaime Jaquez is the reason I don't think they're going to make it, just because I don't know how healthy he's going to be. I saw today, I think he's still day-to-day, hasn't practiced since his injury, since their last game. That's very concerning.
Yeah.
Juzang hasn't been that same guy. He's been better as of late, but he hasn't been the guy dropping 30 points per game, 25, 30 in the tournament like he was last year. Jaquez has kind of been that guy. He was their guy in the Pac-12 tournament, in their conference tournament. He was the guy scoring 25 every game, kind of carrying them. And without him being 100%, there's a gaping hole in their offense as far as creation. Somebody needs to get a basket. Who else is it going to be other than Juzang? It's usually him. And without him being 100%, I just don't know how you can really count on them to win against the teams that they're going to play. So if he's 100%, then, things change. And again, there's not a glaring hole with them, but that's the one that sticks out to me.
No, definitely. And look, it sucks because most of the teams in this tournament, they finally got healthy when the tournament started. UCLA, they started to get injured as the tournament started, which kind of sucks for them. But moving on down, Purdue, I feel like you're going to have a lot to say on this one, but I'll start. I think Purdue, there's a lot to pick from, definitely offensively. But the one I stuck with is their ability to get their opponent in foul trouble. You saw it against Texas. But here's the reason. I'm not even saying that Texas got screwed. Here's the reason. Can't really stop a 7'4" guy inside. He's going to turn no matter how much pressure you put on him, and you're going to end up fouling. Jaden Ivey, if he gets downhill, not really going to stop him besides fouling him. They're going to 46 free throws against Texas. They're going to get their opponent in foul trouble, whether you like it or not. And I think that is huge. It gets guys out of the games. It gets you free points at the line if you're able to convert. And I think that's the reason Purdue has a chance at this title.
Is there any other reason?
No, I know what you're going to pick.
Other than
I know what
Painter?
I know what you're going to pick. Yeah.
Like, look, again, I will avoid just bringing up the fact that Matt Painter has not won in the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that continues to worry me is their point guard play. Again, Eric Hunter is fine defensively. Offensively, he has been up and down his whole career. Again, against Texas, 1 of 7.
Yeah.
11 points, had some free throws, 8 of 9 because that, you get fouled at the end.
1 of 7 and had 11 points.
He's just not produced and really progressed into an improving player that they thought maybe he would after he had a good freshman year. And, and then Stefanovic too, like he hasn't really been playing well. Their offense, they score 81, but they didn't shoot the three well. So if teams just defend them without fouling, which you said is hard to do, then I don't know. But their road is very easy, I will admit.
Yeah.
It's got to be historically one of the easiest roads to an Elite Eight, like ever.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know any. It has to be.
What comes to mind is, I believe, did Kansas State make an Elite Eight one year? No. I'm not thinking of that. Well, they played a 16 seed, a 5 seed. Unfortunately, that was Kentucky, and then who else? I don't remember. I don't remember if they put Loyola in the Sweet 16 or not. But that's the first thing that comes to mind. This is historically easy.
I mean, 14, 15, 6, like that's. Yeah. And they could potentially play an 8 if North Carolina wins. Like that would just be ridiculous. But again, come on, Matt Painter. What are we doing here?
I mean,
Luckily for them, they get to play St. Peter's, who, again, I'll discuss why they're not going to advance.
Yeah, don't jump the gun here.
But I mean, just the road that Purdue has been gifted, and the fact that you can see Purdue fans, they're not even confident, which is the funniest thing to me. Like, you're a 3 seed and you're playing a 15 and you're still not confident that you can win. Like, they were nervous about the Texas game.
I thought Texas was far and away the worst 6 seed, like far and away. And they got them in the second round, and Texas almost won that game. Texas is not good at all. But yeah, let's move on. Their matchup, St. Peter's. Okay.
This is gonna be hard.
Yeah. Okay. So I think in St. Peter's, for what they are. So this is you got to take that into account. Fantastic coaching. I think they had a good game plan against Murray State, and I think they had a great game plan against Kentucky. You give this squad, almost a week of preparation for this Purdue game. They're going to play maybe better than you think. Their defense, for what they are, is fantastic. We talked about it. Their defensive sets are awesome. And if they can get hot, they can put up some serious points. Look, Doug Edert may be, he's going to kill me. Like he is going to be the death of me. I hate him. We need to get him on the podcast, I think. But I'm scrambling for something. And that's what I came up with.
Guys, they're just not talented. They're not talented enough to do this. Like,
I mean, this is so easy for you.
It's mean. Like, I know it's mean to say, but I will say this. They are running some of the most advanced sets that I have ever seen.
That coach is going to get the Seton Hall job. Like, that 100%. Coach is fantastic.
Like, their offense is the ball movement is insane. And that's kind of how they've counteracted the fact that they aren't talented compared to these other teams. I mean, good God, their budget is like $1 million or whatever for their basketball program. Like it's just at some point running a good offense.
Sorry, I couldn't remember. Yeah. Shaheen Holloway, yes.
I mean, it can get you this far, but at some point talent will overcome. And I think I would think that this is as far as they go, just because who's going to guard Zachy? Like they don't even have a big, and he talked about, I will say, they are going to out tough you and be more physical. They're from New York. That's what they do.
They're Jersey boys.
That works. I mean, even Oscar flat out dominated. Like talk about being physical.
Even Oscar. Wait, hold up.
I'm just saying, in retrospect, he's only 6'9". Zachy's 7'4". Like, how are you gonna stop him?
Oscar's much tougher than Zachy.
Maybe, but like
Zachy, it looks like he hates his life when he's on the court. I'm just saying. I'm not.
Travion is bigger than Oscar as well. So again, he's just going to back him down, and they're going to have to double. And Purdue just has to shoot. But again, we're not trying to get matchup specific here, but Look, they're just not. It's been a great story. It has. It's like
no,
Florida
it
Gulf
hasn't.
Coast.
It sucked. I hate
This has been a great story. Like
I
Florida
hate
Gulf
this
Coast
story.
was like St. Peter's hasn't even been like necessarily like exciting. They've just beaten teams. Like
No, like everybody's trying to force Doug Etter. Everybody's trying to force him. He hasn't really like impressed that much. Like Banks was the guy in the first game, maybe Etter in the second, but like it's just that stupid mustache in Little Fro. He's going to kill me. He is going to kill me.
I love that it bothers you. I mean, like Florida Gulf Coast, they're trying to like force that narrative of 15, and it's just like these aren't the same. Like those dudes were dunking on like Dunk
They
City,
were awesome.
like
Yeah.
just as athletic as the teams they were playing. St. Peter's is just they're really destroying teams X's and O's, which is hilarious as far as Cal getting dominated in the X and O department. But not like we haven't said that would happen before. But again, I think at some point talent will overcome.
Okay. Arizona. Okay. Arizona, the reason I hate them so much. Like I know they're the underdog story. I loved Oral Roberts. I loved FGCU. I hate St. Peter's.
Like even Oral Roberts, like
again, they had Max Asmus and Kevin O'Banner. They were like, great.
Not even close to the same 15, but whatever. I get what they're doing, but it's fine. Almost makes the loss more embarrassing, right?
1,000%. Yeah. What are you talking about? 100%. Like what? I don't know if that's supposed to be a dig, but I agree. Like I hate this team. I hate them. But that means that we have to have Eddard on because I have to explain why I hate him and the Peacocks. I have to.
Yeah. I almost was going to get the virtual background of the Peacocks, but I decided not to.
He's going to kill me. Like he is going to be the death of me. That stupid mustache. Anyways. Off my tangent. Arizona. The reason I think they can win the championship is their spirit ability. They can get out and run more than anybody in the country. They go on these runs. They go on, like, it's crazy. When you watch TCU games, sometimes they go on a little bit of a drought. They give up some points, but they're almost positively always going to answer with a 10-0 run of their own. And I think that's what I love about this Arizona team. You can bank on that always happening. And another thing, if I wanted to give two, is they don't play like the pretty boys. Like you get a 1 seed, you look at some of them, you like Kansas. I know they have Brown, whatever. But some of those 1 seeds, they don't get down and dirty. They don't get into the trenches. They don't go on the floor for anything. I'll tell you what, Benedict Mathurin does not play like a lottery pick. He does not play like he's trying to preserve his body for the NBA draft. Like he plays like he is fighting for his life out there, even though he will get picked maybe top 5. That's the type of story that he's building throughout this tournament run. And they hustle their ass off. They get out and run. They do all, like, their offense is awesome. I really do like this Arizona team.
Again, Arizona is, I think, depending on who you ask, the best team in the country. I think people have definitely said that.
People get fatigued from Gonzaga. So, like, they're always going to pick, number 2. Yeah.
And, again, watching their game against TCU, Mathurin was just incredible. Mm-hmm. And Koloko was great. I think that was kind of a surprise. But, again, I think the key for them is going to be their 3-point shooting. They beat TCU and didn't shoot the 3 well. But again, whether you like the call, the no call or not, we were kind of talking about it.
Convinced myself that I hate the no call. By the way, when it did a full 180. Right after I was like, I kind of like that they didn't decide on free throws. Hated it. I hated it. When after a few more, like looking at it, I was like, and you said the Kentucky thing, what would have happened if that was like severe or whatever, like at half court? Oh, hole through wall. Like I'm going on a rampage. Like
especially, and again, like it was not really talked about a lot because it didn't matter because they didn't make a shot. But can you imagine if that layup counted? I mean,
Jamie Dixon may have punched her.
It was a backcourt violation. They didn't blow the whistle. If there was no foul, the whistle should have been blown. He went over, like, can't do that. I mean, just really bad officiating so far in this tournament, by the way. It's been really, really, really bad. We could talk about that for an entire episode, but their 3-point shooting is really up and down. It should have cost them against TCU. Mathurin kind of saved the day. He shot 3 of 11. Creasa was 1 of 10. Like, that's not going to.
You can tell he is still coming back from injury. By the way, just how he moves. Yeah.
He's probably the guy I would look at that has got to pick it up if they really want to win this whole thing. Because I think, defensively they're tough. Matherin's going to be their number one guy, but I don't think Koloko is going to give them 28. Like, he shot 12 of 13 from the field. I don't think he's going to do that again as they keep advancing in the tournament. So 3-point shooting, very, very important for them.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's go to their matchup against Houston. Look, Houston has continuously overperformed in the tournament. That's a direct correlation with their coach, Kelvin Sampson. Connor, I know you don't like me to say that, but it's true. Kelvin Sampson is an incredible coach. He's gotten the most out of these players.
Best coach in basketball? Other than Jay Wright?
Well, probably still no.
Who's ahead of him?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Give me 3 coaches that are better than Kelvin Sampson.
Jay Wright. Mark Few, probably. Maybe. I know, I hate Gonzaga. I'm not going to say that. You put me on the spot here, man. I'm not going to say Cal because you're like, oh my God, Cal, whatever. Bruce Pearl is awesome.
Oh my God. Are you serious?
But that's kind of USI bias. I don't know, dude. Scott Drew is probably up there. I think Scott Drew is a fantastic coach.
I think Kelvin Sampson might be the second best. I think he might be the second best coach in the country.
Do you really think that?
I really do.
I'm scrambling for names in my head.
I know they went
to me.
They went to the Final Four last year, and that was impressive. I can't remember. I think it was Jeff Brazella tweeted this. Maybe it was Matt Norlander. Not for sure. This run they're on, I mean, it's got to be the best coaching job out of anyone. Like, nobody expected Houston to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody. And,
it's the same thing every year. It's the same thing every year. Like, no, the
two coaches in this game, Tommy Lloyd, phenomenal. Nobody expected Arizona to be a 1 seed.
That's who I was kind of thinking of for a second, because I have fallen in love with what Tommy Lloyd can do, but it's his rookie season, so I'm not going to do that.
I could, again, just based off this year, it would be like Jay Wright, Tommy Lloyd, Kelvin. Those are the 3.
Mark Adams,
I think. Yeah. They have good players, though. I mean, I think I don't know if anybody expected. There's 3 seed. Probably people had them more in like the 5 to 7 range. They've overachieved. Just not maybe
Houston
as much
was top 10 preseason.
Which is crazy to me. But again, their roster isn't healthy. Their roster isn't healthy, though. So that kind of – but yeah. Go ahead. I don't know if you even gave your reason.
No, I haven't yet. I haven't yet, but thanks. And it was going to be Kelvin Sampson, honestly. But then when I was making this, I was kind of like, that's kind of an easy cop-out answer. So I'm just going to say this. Houston has a better offensive team than years past. Like, they don't rely on one guy, really. They kind of have a 3-headed snake in their backcourt in Jamal Shedd, Tajay Moore, and Kyler Edwards. And I think that is huge for their squad. Tajay Moore had 21 against Illinois. I think if one of those 3 can get hot, they can beat teams just by how suffocating they are against teams. And they can present some matchup problems with Arizona. I don't think they will. But I'm saying why they can win the tournament, just because their offense is better. Their defense hasn't really taken a drop off, so it's huge for them. Obviously, look, KenPom, you got to look when you're looking at KenPom, you got to take into account adjusted defensive efficiency. It's not very high, not as high as you'd think it would be, but he's adjusting because their schedule sucks. They only had 1 quad 1 win, or I guess 2 quad 1 wins going into the tournament, and schedule sucked, but here they are, and they embarrassed Illinois. UAB, I picked UAB. I thought UAB was going to win, but they kind of shut them down. And Houston is able to do that to basically any team they play. So that's kind of where I'm going with it.
Look, here's the deal with Houston. Their injuries. Again, you talk about their guards. I think it's been kind of crazy. They have 3 good guards right now that are playing well.
Mm-hmm.
But again, they lost their 2 better ones, Tremont Mark and Sasser, and they've kind of filled that void. But again, I don't know how much longer these guys are going to be able to produce and overperform. They really are running into again, depends on who you ask. Arizona could be the best team in the country. I just don't know. At some point, this thing is going to run out of gas, I think. They honestly have handled both of the teams fairly well that they played. But again, I don't know. And they don't shoot the 3 well either. I'm afraid that some team they go against is going to get hot and they just won't be able to keep up because these guards weren't really necessarily supposed to be in this position. They're supposed to be the guys coming off the bench to provide a spark when Sasser needs a break, and now
that will kill
the fire.
That will hurt a lot. Not having Sasser yet.
So Sasser's kind of the reason why I don't think they'll advance.
Michigan, look, this is the reason because it's kind of 2 reasons, but I'm making it into one. They're a top 5 team preseason. That they have a top 5 maybe roster at its full potential in the country. But that's at full potential. This team has been kind of off the rails on and off this season. Caleb Houston is pretty inconsistent. Musa Diabate kind of inconsistent. Hunter Dickinson not having as great of a season as he was last year. But they have one guy that ties them all together. Devontae Jones also inconsistent. They have one guy that ties this all together, and that's Eli Brooks. I think having a veteran leader like Eli Brooks that can keep all the guys in line, hit big mid-range shots like he did against Tennessee. He absolutely won them that game against Tennessee, by the way. That is what's going to help him a lot when you have somebody that can. He's kind of I compare a lot of stuff to Kentucky, but when Tyler Ulis was on a team, that was a very young team, but he played much older than he actually was. When you have a guy like that who's mature, who can kind of coach the team on his own, because we all know I have gripes with Juwan Howard and how he coaches. But Eli Brooks is the reason that they can win a national championship. Not even their best player, not even close to their best player.
It's not. Again, I don't like doing this. By the way, I think Juwan Howard, there were a lot of questions on whether he could coach or not.
I was trying to alley you to say Juwan Howard is the reason that they won't make the
because I'm not going to do that. It's going to be hard to do that because, again, when he took over, it was basically John Beilein's team, and he inherited a great roster, didn't have to do much. And people were kind of questioning, well, can he do it with his own guys? I think this year, there's still some – Brooks obviously is still around, but everybody else that's kind of here, Dickinson, Houston, Diabate, Frankie Collins off the bench, these are his guys now, and he's gotten them to play well and come together, whether it was a bumpy road or not. But again, let's not forget who they are. They did have 14 losses. They are that up and down team. And he's props to Juwan Howard. He figured out a way to have them go on a run. But let's not forget they are this team that has peaks and valleys. And they're going against arguably the most consistent program in the last 6 or 7 years in Villanova. There's just nothing else you can even say. But if I don't want to play that card, point guard is a huge question. Devontae Jones is just hurt. Then he came back, got hit in the head again. It just doesn't look right. And Frankie Collins is a freshman. I know he played well in their first game. Didn't do much in the Tennessee game because Eli Brooks basically had to take over. I don't think that's a recipe for success either, especially when you're going against one of the best guards in the country in Gillespie. So guard play is a serious problem. And again, they're 19 and 14. At some point, this thing's gonna crash down to earth. And I feel like it's probably gonna happen against Villanova.
Yeah, let's hop right into that. Villanova, look, I think if there's one thing besides Jay Wright, besides Colin Gillespie being one of the best guards in the nation, I think I think he's the best guard left in the tournament. The best
Really?
true point guard left in this tournament. Not
point guard, yeah.
Jaden Ivey's out on the other side of the bracket. Yes, I know.
Is Mathurin a point guard or is he like
he's a two
combo?
He's a two. Kirk Caris is their point guard. If he can get back and healthy. But, Villanova, what's one thing you think about when you think about Villanova? Unreal shooting. 36% from three on the year, which doesn't sound high, but as a team, that's actually very good. They can shoot 1 of 5, like 1 from 5 from 3. So like point guard shooting, you know what I'm saying. And that's huge. That's a huge advantage to have in college basketball. That's almost unheard of in college basketball. Jay Wright has his team rolling at the exact right time. They had a tough start of the year where they're playing, all the good teams at once. And then they stacked up the losses pretty early. But they ended with a 2 seed, won a battle against Ohio State, outshot every time Ohio State made a run. By the way, Malachi Branham, awesome player. He's going to be a first-round draft pick this year, correct? I just want to make sure about that.
He is mocked, yeah, which is a big surprise. He is mocked. I think in some he's mocked to go in the first round. I hope he leaves just for Indiana's sake because he's going to be really good next year if he does come back. But yeah, I think he's worked his way into that.
So, yeah, and so, every time Ohio State started to make a run with Malachi Branham, mid-range, whatever, Villanova would come down and they'd answer with a 3, a Caleb Daniels 3, a Justin Moore 3, whatever. They're awesome. I really like this team. And yeah, obviously they have Colin Gillespie. He is an absolute extension of Jay Wright on the court. So that's why I really like this team.
Villanova has one glaring hole and they haven't had to deal with it yet.
We talked about it all year too.
Well, maybe.
Ooh,
they don't have a big guy.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Who's guarding Hunter Dickinson? That's my question.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Probably Dixon.
Yeah, I just don't know who that's going to be. I mean, Dixon is 6'8", 255. It's probably going to be him. He's the closest guy that can kind of stack up against Dickinson weight-wise. But, again, I would take Dickinson in that matchup. I think, again, not to kind of point the finger and bring up past takes, but somebody said that Tennessee was going to shut Dickinson down, and I think he kind of proved that he is a force to be reckoned with, whether you have 7-footers or not. And if he puts on a 30-point performance against Villanova, he can do it against anybody, and he's going to have to carry them. And I think that against Villanova, that's a very bad matchup for them. So that'd be the reason I don't think Villanova advancing, and it's really tough to come up with one.
No, yeah, it's definitely tough to come up with one. But it's just I think their offense is just so prolific. It's kind of hard to find something. But kind of moving on into the last region, we can kind of go through these. So here we go. Kansas. I think the reason that they can win this championship is a reason that they haven't seen all year, and I think it's very new to them, is Remy Martin is actually playing well. He's actually effective on the court. He's scoring he scored 20 points against Creighton off the bench, and he opens up the ceiling for this team to the moon. And I think actually having an elite guard is crucial for a Bill Self-coached team, and they got it. They finally found it, and I think Kansas can make a run if Remy is playing like that.
Yeah, that was kind of a big surprise to see. I had some family in town that live out in Kansas City. By the way, you would love it. They hate Kansas. Yes. I mean, they're IU fans, but they think Kansas fans are the most obnoxious, just worst type of people. Like, they are awful, and they can't stand them, which I feel bad for my cousin because he's an IU fan. So he's been getting a lot of shit from all those people. But look, very concerning because, again, you bring up Remy Martin. It's a cool story. It's great. Hasn't been there all year, though. the guy that's kind of been consistent for them was Agbaji, and he hasn't looked right. For both of their tournament games, he hasn't looked right. He's been really inefficient, 5 of 14 against Texas Southern, and he was, again, 5 of 14 against Creighton. That's not going to get it done.
Yeah.
And Jalen Wilson, also 5 of 14 against Creighton. Let me pull up what he was against Texas Southern.
The only consistent thing about Jalen Wilson is his inconsistency.
Yeah. I mean, just really, Agbaji was that guy for them for most of the year. That's why he's a National Player of the Year candidate. And if he's not playing like that, Kansas is not a 1 seed. Like, they are not a 1 seed in any way. So he's gonna have to figure it out if they want to, advance and win the title. But he's the biggest concern for me. He doesn't look right, and I don't know why. And they're going against the luckiest team in the country. So,
and let's get in on that lucky team. And look, I could have used this very easily and just said, "Oh, they're lucky, and it pays to be lucky in March." St. Patty's Day and everything, blah blah blah. But I will give an actual, tangible stat for this. I think Providence is a better shooting team than a lot of people give them credit for. They have a couple guys, and I'm not even looking at percentages, whatever. This is eye test only. When you watch Providence, you see this. They have guys in Al Durham, Jared Bynum, and Noah Horchler that can really, really fill it up when it matters. Maybe sometimes throughout the game, like they go cold a little bit, but when it matters at the end of games, those guys are hitting their threes always. And I think that's huge. That's huge for March. If they can keep that going, I know they're going to play some teams that are a lot better than them, and they haven't really had to do that all year, except, Villanova, UConn. But, this Providence team, man, like, they get lucky and they start hitting some shots, and it could go their way. The ball can roll their way, and it's March, baby. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm going to be really lazy on this one because I don't really like. They're honestly like a pretty complete team. Like, they have everything that you need. They have good bigs. They have good guards. They shoot the ball well. Like, Richmond kind of is an outlier recently. I mean, I don't think Richmond really belonged to the tournament. They upset Iowa, whatever. Providence blows them out.
Yeah.
But Providence continues, other than that game, to just play close games. Even though I had a close one against South Dakota State, it was probably the most popular upset pick. I even said it was going to be an upset. So did you. I think we all talked about it. They just keep winning close games. And at some point, when you play with the basketball gods like that, at some point, if you just let teams hang around, it's not going to work out for you. And they've won so many of those games, and I give them a lot of credit for it. They've completely overachieved this year. But at some point, it's going to run out. And I think Kansas is way more talented than they are.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they're going to be able to just let Kansas hang around and then get a victory late. I just don't think that's not a good recipe for advancing. And then if they do win this one, I mean, you're going to end up playing better teams the farther you advance.
Yeah.
So
not in the second matchup, not in the Elite Eight matchup though.
Yeah. Not in this one. But again, though, if you want to talk about teams that are just getting lucky or that are getting hot at the right time, it could be one of these.
That's true. Okay. So
God, I can't believe this is a matchup like that. We talked about it before we started, but
yeah, you were pissed. But so Iowa State is a team that, I can't believe these two teams destroyed our hopes of a Wisconsin-Auburn matchup, which could have went really well. Jabari Smith versus Johnny Davis. It's kind of a cool storyline.
Scouts are kind of pissed, probably.
Yeah.
Not being able to see those two.
So Iowa State, I will say, I know this is me hyping them up, but I have to be honest. They're probably, out of the teams left, out of the 16 teams left, they probably have the 15th most talented roster. Not obviously it's above St. Peter's, but the way that they've won these games in the tournament is reminiscent of something I said earlier in the year, which makes teams good in March. They can bring a team that is much better than them, Wisconsin, LSU, down to play their style of play. That's huge. That's huge. If they can bring a team down to play their style of play, then the game becomes closer and closer to 50-50 at the end of the game. That's what they did against Wisconsin. That's what they did against LSU. And they won't out talent any team left, but they're going to make it a game in which they feel comfortable. And look, I think TJ Olsenberger, am I saying that right? I think he's done a fantastic job with his team in his first year. Iowa State continues to win games. Let's see what they can do against the team that I'm going to say after them.
Guys, they haven't scored 60 points.
Yeah.
I haven't scored 60 points in a tournament game yet. Like, at some point, got to score the basketball to win. And, it's funny because their two guards, kind of their main guards this season, are Big Ten players.
Yeah.
Kalsher and Brockington. Brockington has had a breakout year. He's averaging 17 points. But again, I've seen that guy at Penn State. I've seen how up and down he can be. I've seen Kalsher, who has been good for them lately. But again, he's not great. And he's kind of been carrying them in the tournament. I mean, he had 22 against Wisconsin, and against LSU, he didn't play as well. See, that's the thing. They're so volatile. Tyrese Hunter, 23 points.
Yeah.
Against Wisconsin, shot 1 of 10 for 3. It's like, I don't know who you could trust on that team. And that's the beauty of March. It's great. Everybody can step up. Doesn't matter who it is, but just changes every game. But again, that doesn't work all the time. And that's hard to win 6 games in a row.
Yeah.
Like that. And you don't know who is going to show up and who isn't. So, they're just not that good. This matchup sucks. It really does.
The next team is kind of the inverse of what Iowa State is, because Miami is a fantastic offensive team. What they're going to try and do, they're not going to try and stop you defensively. They play, if you remember the Rockets team from a few years back with PJ Tucker, not to make an NBA reference because I hate the NBA, but when PJ Tucker was a 5 and they didn't really care about defense, and this is what Miami does. They run, they get out and run, they shoot a lot of threes. They're fun to watch. They're really fun to watch. I know we're not an ACC podcast. We make fun of the ACC a lot, but the Miami Hurricanes are very fun to watch. They have a 3-guard. They, by the way, elite guard play. I think I'm ready to call it elite guard play with Charlie Moore, Isaiah Wong, and Cam McGusty. That tandem, that 3-man tandem, is awesome. They went out and they embarrassed Katie Johnson and Wendell Green against Auburn. And this team, if they can outscore Iowa State, if they can outscore Kansas, if they can make a run. They can really do it and make a run because I believe they have the ability to outscore any team left in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, they've been putting up a lot of points. This has been, honestly, Miami kind of snuck in there. They weren't really sure if they were going to get it or not. I think Iowa State, I know they were 11, but they kind of been solidly in throughout the whole year because they had a lot of quad 1 wins. Miami, their starting 5 is great. Like I've said with some other teams, though, they have no bench, at all.
Talk about big men trouble, by the way.
Yes.
They don't have big men.
No. They have 5 guys, basically, and that's who they're playing. Somebody gets into foul trouble, nobody played off the bench more than 10 minutes against Auburn, and they won that game by 18. That really got out of hand late. And they were kind of in control throughout. So you'd think maybe get some subs in, has a break. No, every starter played 33 minutes or more. And, I get it's the tournament, but that's not great. And I know that their guard play is great. But you just got to, if somebody gets in foul trouble, they're screwed. And they're going to have to play somebody that hasn't really played in the tournament so far. But again, this matchup, it's probably going to end up being somehow the best game.
Oh, it will. It will because
you're
talking down on it so much. You're like, oh, gross, that game, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be great.
It probably will be. But it's just one of those games that I have no interest in. None, which is sad. I know Michigan's an 11 and I'm the Big Ten resident, but there's games. I don't know. It's maybe not like the Purdue St. Peter's game is probably the worst, I guess. Out of
But
all
even
these.
then, I want to watch that first half.
Want to see if
see
St.
the
Peter's
first
still
half.
has it.
Yeah, because actually, no. God, no. I'm not falling for it. I hate St. Peter's, and I'm not going to fall for it. I might watch out of spite.
Oh, you just want them to win at this point?
No, I might watch them on ironically, and just make fun of them the whole time.
Wouldn't it be better if they won though?
Technically, but not for my sake. I don't know. I hate this team, and I root against them.
At least you
forever.
would lose to the winner if they somehow win it all.
Sure, fine. I don't, but I know there's negatives to each possible outcome, but I would prefer they get blown out.
Fair enough.
I would
also, I would be okay with that too, because it would just, on the flip side of that,
negatives to both. Yeah. I hate this team, but we have to get Eddard on. We have to. I don't think we have a choice. And we have to do it quick while the iron's hot, because after this tournament, nobody's ever going to hear about St. Peter's ever again. So
you're going to cuss him out if he comes on, probably.
I might. Yeah. Well, what's fake? Now this is just, planning for the next pod on air, but what's fake? Like we have like a duet sponsorship and tell him that he needs to shave his mustache.
Oh God.
That would be pretty great.
I'm a big fan of him, so
I just can't do it, man. I can't. He killed I'm dead. I'm dead because of him. So if you like that, that's cool. I know who the real ones are.
I guess I'm gonna take over the show.
All right, but seriously, thanks for doing this with me. I hope you guys have enjoyed the tournament so far. I hope you guys have enjoyed our coverage of it. Maybe would it be more passionate if one of our teams were still in it?
Yeah.
You think so? Because I'm pretty passionate right now.
It'd be probably even more if
maybe
not Kentucky, maybe not you, but for Indiana, come on, that would be.
Oh yeah, because you would be riding high. Yeah, you would be going insane. So okay. Yeah, that kind of sucks. That kind of sucks that they lost as soon as they Indiana won a game, but as soon as they possibly could. It does suck. By the way, me and Bryson's bet is still going on. Only the real ones remember that. But me and Bryson made a bet.
Hold on a minute. Isn't it the first one to win a tournament game?
No, first
to go farther.
Who goes farther? He said, I almost got you on a technicality. I said, no, you didn't. No, you did not.
Yeah.
Because they did not go farther. But
man, so I forgot about that.
We made this bet my freshman year. My freshman year leading up to the tournament. Bryson was going insane one night and just told me that Indiana would go farther in the tournament that year than Kentucky. There was question marks at that time in the season, maybe not at that time, but at the end, if Indiana would make the tournament. And I was like, you're insane. You're on $25, whatever. Tournament gets canceled. Move to the next year. Bet is back on Double or Nothing. I think it was doubled. I don't know. Hope not, because it's going to be an insane amount of money by the time this is done. But doubled up next year. Neither team makes a tournament. Now we're here. Both teams lose in the first round. So thank you, St. Peter's. Thank you. Thank you so much, Doug Eddard. I love you. Gosh. Yeah. He's right. Yeah.
I totally forgot about it. Next year's going to be interesting. One team looks a little bit better than the other right now, though. So as far as how far I don't know, guess that doesn't really matter how your team looks entering the tournament. You could beat anybody and lose to anybody.
Yeah, that's the show. Connor, thank you for joining me. Thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe, 5 stars, do whatever you can to support us. Yeah, we're going to keep this rolling through March. Who knows? Now that we're back at school and I'm not with my family, you're not with your family. We can do a spaces after, the night of tournament games if you want. We would have some guys on. We need Martha back on. Me and Martha just need to have a sit down conversation. Maybe the recording is on. But I feel like there's some beef that we need to clear because I don't think he likes me. But
yeah, I think it's like a mutual hatred going on right now.
I don't hate Martha. I think he is a good enough internet troll, and I give him. I think I didn't give him enough credit for how good he was at trolling. So
yeah.
Yep.
Love you guys.